absolutely fascinated me. And I said at the time that we would explore it in this interview in a bit more depth. You know, you and I know in the traditional money market in the past, it was all about previous performance. How had you performed? How had you serviced the debt that you had historically? How had your business performed historically? Was always seen as a great indicator of future performance. And then you said to me a few weeks ago when we started discussing this event, you said to me, in the new world, historical performance is not going to count for nearly as much, and actually 2020 figures will be very important. And that absolutely fascinated me. So, you know, here, help me understand where you're coming from with that, Bill.
Yes, because I mean, in the old days, it was a balance sheet you looked at. The balance sheets could be a bit over a year out of date. So in the modern world, we've got financial projections, we've got um, financial accounts, management accounts to help understand.
Mm.
But when you look at the old ones pre-COVID, yes, they may show an excellent business, they may show excellent financial control. That is going to show that the person or the company have got good management control. You can have good management control, but unless you've got the customers coming over the
Yeah.
door,
Yeah.
there's no finance. So it's going to help the bank, the lender, understand your experience. But they've also got to know what's happening outside that front door in the bigger world outside. Have you got bookings, for example, people who have been unable to get weddings or birthdays booked?
Mm.
They may have carried those bookings forward. So when you do a cash flow projection, that will stand them in good stead. But the company themselves, they've also got to look at how they're spending their money as well. Are they in the old days of going out and buying a nice big car, etc., etc.? They've got to change their attitude towards that. How they spend the money. Don't go out and buy it. Lease it. Example, you've got to look at your utilities. How you doing that? Can you bring in youngsters from the local authority grants
Mm.
that there, which people can get of all ages now. It used to be under a certain age, but now if you're going to one of the actual providers, you can get granted for that one. They've got to think about so many things about how they do, how they buy things.
Yeah.
Um, are they going to maybe before they had an in-house accountant? Right, there are a lot of people out there who are acting on behalf of a number of businesses. So you've got to cut your cost um,
Mhm.
to your income.
Yeah.
It's not there are two lines to the equation or two sides to it. There's the income and the expenditure. The, and the income, yeah, but it's how you look at the costs, and there are so many ways to do it. Um, People speak about asset finance. I mean, I've spoken before about R&D tax. I've
Mhm.
been not involved. I've been involved in identifying research and development. But so many businesses can qualify that. Even the hotelier. There was
Yep.
one recently that I met, and you know who is Barry, who developed an app for booking for bedrooms up to about 15 beds.
Yep.
Now I met that person at a business group and the breakout room, and I said to him, uh, I hope that you have taken that further, R&D.
Yep.
And the lady smiled and said, yes, I have. But thank you, Bill, because if she hadn't,
Mm.
different story.
Yep.
So when you're meeting somebody, you're having a conversation, but sometimes the questions or the conversation is there to find out and to help.
Yeah. I dare say, Bill, I mean, you and I, as I've got to know you over the last few years, I think our approach to business and our approach to helping our clients is very similar. I think
Mm.
we've got very similar principles in that respect. And something that always strikes me about yourself is that um, I don't think you're necessarily there just to sort out what the client comes to you for, is it? I think it's very much in your nature to inquire, be inquisitive, to drill down into the detail, and actually, as you're known for saying, well, I'll give you the advice that you need, not necessarily the advice that you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah, I mean, I'm dealing with one just now. A person who came to me, they, the actual wife had bought a property in the west of Scotland a number of years ago, and they've been developing it, but they were looking for further funding in order to continue the development and to do other things. And I've pointed out, hold on, if you The business is in your wife's name. We've got to rewind, and we have arranged a meeting with a good firm of accountants, because they've got to understand what they do is going to be detrimental to the future for themselves and their family. So we have to rewind and get the right structure in place. And I always say it is my understanding that do I know the answers? Quite possibly I do, but it's important that I bring them in contact with a good accountant, or with a good solicitor.
So, reading between the lines there, Bill, I think your advice to our audience that's out there at the moment, in terms of reopening up your hospitality business, it's very much going to be about thinking laterally and considering options that you maybe wouldn't have considered in the
Oh
past.
yes.
Lease, asset finance. If you've got, for those few lucky souls that still do have a bit of working capital in the bank, I'm guessing actually in the short term it's protect that, keep it as much
Yeah.
as you possibly can in the bank, and leverage other opportunities.
Oh yes. And it's also how you promote the business. I mean, I've just this last weekend got myself a digital business card. I must admit, I wish I'd done it years ago. I thought it was just name, address, and your contact details. It's a bit naive, I'm afraid. So I have now got it, and it's like having another website in a very small
Yeah,
box.
yeah,
So,
very
but
much so.
those things, the tellers, they have to get out there. They've got to publicise effectively, and not doing it themselves. Employ a good person for your website, for your social media.
Hmm.
Let them get on it. You've got to work on the business, not necessarily in it. And
Yes.
if you can work on it by doing all those different things, you have the manager, or you have other staff to do today. You want to look down and make sure that it's working, and that
Yep.
the engine is well oiled.
I think that's so important, Bill. And for a lot of the business owners that I encounter on my day-to-day travels and conversations, they do try and take everything on their own shoulders
Mm.
rather than seeking the appropriate advice. And I guess it's kind of a trust and confidence thing.
Mhm.
You and I are very much of the same philosophy, that we'll let the trust and the confidence build with the people that we meet through our networks. But prime example of that, the importance of having that expert help. One of the potential projects that I asked you to come and have a look at to help me with. You recall there was a developer who was looking to acquire a new hotel property, had been refused commercial finance because, whilst his track record in business was all very positive, as you mentioned earlier on in this interview, that individual wasn't experienced in hotel keeping, and couldn't secure their financial funding because of it. By bringing me on board as a strategic advisor, doing their financial planning, their cash flow forecast, their business plan, we were able to get that commercial funding agreed in principle. And then we had one little hiccup, which was when I called you of, right, we've got one final spanner in the works. Can you help, Bill? And of course, you were able to offer the advice. I don't know it was necessarily the advice the individual wanted to hear, but your experience was able to identify, well, that's the problem why you're not able to do what you're wanting to do.
Yeah.
But here's some alternative options. I think one of the lessons that I'm encouraging everybody out in the industry to embrace is, you don't need to be the answer to everything. You don't need to know the answer to every mortal thing in your business, and actually concentrate on what you're good at, and other areas draw in the help, draw in the advice
Yes.
from experts like you and I, to have a much stronger, a much greater
Mm.
outcome.
Mm. Yes, it's like the lady I met with doing the app.
Mm.
I introduced her to you, but little did I know that she already knew you.
Well, very
Um,
unusual. Yeah.
it's meeting other people. I mean, I met a gentleman last year, and I didn't know about capital allowances,
Mm.
but now that but the fact I did, and yes, he came with me to meet my client, and that was beneficial. So no matter how old you are, we're all learning, and it's not all about bricks and mortar. It's not all about funding. It's all about the correct advice and guidance, and knowing who to turn to. And
Mm.
don't be frightened to ask. And that's why I call myself your business and commercial finance facilitator, because
Indeed.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
Um, it's some like Colin McKean's called it's called Scotland's Mr. Networker, and quite rightly too. So I mean, I won't say I have grabbed that name, but certainly that's the one I have on my literature, because
No, I think that's
I think that's what it is. But
yeah.
also, it's important to be able to say no
Mm,
as well. There's
yeah.
no way I'm going to take somebody on board and charge them a fee, because in my initial conversations with them will ascertain whether or not I can help. I can always say
Yep.
from what I have gleaned from our conversation, I consider that I can be of assistance.
Mm,
Or if it does mean meeting an accountant or a lawyer beforehand to get the structure sorted out, then and then only. Otherwise, sorry, I can't help you.
yeah. So important, Bill. And I think we're all reminded from time to time of the importance of doing that. With your work, you can only give the advice. You can only put into practice what you think is right, what is legally
Legally right.
permissible. What is ethical. Similar with my own work. Particularly in the coaching and advice side of my business. The work is only, the advice that I give is only as effective
Mm,
as the client going and putting it into
mm,
practice. And very similarly, I've learned the absolute importance right at the beginning of a relationship of actually working through and assessing, is this right? And if I don't feel the relationship's right, if I don't feel I'm the right
mm.
person to help the client, I'll recommend someone else that I think can
Oh
address
yes.
the issue that they've got. I would much rather do that
Ah,
than try
mm,
and
ah,
faff my way through.
yeah. I mean, I was on a business group this morning. Yes, a Zoom down in the Midlands, one I've been going to, and there was somebody speaking about the client and how they weren't getting paid and everything else. And in the breakout room, I said, look, what you're doing is fine, but the banks just now, if it's asset finance, if it's invoice finance, I said, look, people used to be frightened, or I thought it had a bad name, but
Yeah.
invoice finance factoring for businesses. Why spend your time chasing for money when you could be in the business working on it, or are producing goods for your business? Get them to do it. And yeah, the banks will lend on that just now, no problem at all.
Mm,
But it's you've got to look at all the financial tools,
yeah,
and there are a lot of them. I have them listed on my business card site, uh,
absolutely.
because there's so many. But as I said before, it's like being a doctor or a social worker. You
Yeah.
have to be able to diagnose before you can give a in the consultation,
Give the,
before you
the
can give the
consultation and the advice.
yes.
So, Bill, in summary, to any of our audience watching this afternoon's interview, in all sincerity, if you're sitting there at the moment, we know that we're looking at probably end of April, some point into May, when restaurants, hotels, cafes are going to be able to reopen in some shape or form. We've got a bit of time that we need to bridge the gap until then, and I think what a lot of people underestimate is that reopening your hotel or your restaurant is not just a case of turning the
No.
key and opening the door. There are in many ways unrecoverable costs that you need to bear just to get your business back open again. And let's hope and pray that this is the last time we have to do this. I hope we never go into this kind of lockdown situation again. Um, in many ways, that's in everybody's hands. If we follow the guidance, do what we're asked to do, then we should be able to come out it, even if it's not quite as quickly as some people would like. There are bound to be people watching this who are thinking, I just haven't got the cash reserves to reopen the business and keep going now. Um, those kind of people are being kept awake at night having those kind of thoughts. They really need to pick the phone up and have a chat with you, Bill, don't they?
Yeah, it's no longer the bank of mum and dad, or the parents going on a ski holiday,
Mm,
spending the kids' inheritance. It's a no, it's changed, but the people have got to take advice. People like yourself, myself. If you and I don't know the answers, we will know someone
we
who
will know
can.
someone who can. Yeah.
Yes, we may be one man businesses, but we're not. We're
No.
not one. We have so many people that we can call upon.
Indeed, absolutely. Bill, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time today to join us. One last piece, how can people get in contact with you? Where can they find you to carry on the conversation?
Well, they can contact me. My mobile number is 077 111 29031, but I prefer to get an email to bill.christie, CHRISTIE, at cerbusinessfinance.co.uk. Delighted to help, delighted to have a chat. But nowadays, I'm delighted to have a one-to-one.
Indeed, absolutely. And we'll pop, when this goes out on social media channels, we'll pop links to your digital business card and to your social channels so people can get in contact and make that.
That would be much better, actually. Yes, thank you.
We'll put those links in as well. Bill, thank you ever so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Everyone, enjoy. If you are in that situation where you're concerned, you're worrying about how to the operational finance or to get your business back up and running, and you want to discuss through what some of the different options would be, I really do urge you, drop an email, put a call to Bill. I know you'll put some time aside, have a virtual coffee with you. And if nothing else, Bill, I can assure that what people will get from you is honest, wise, and realistic advice.
Thank you, Barry, and thank you for this opportunity.
My pleasure. Bill, thanks ever so much.
Pleasure. Thank you.
See you again.